Good morning and welcome to the great city of East Point, where I always say there's absolutely no point like East Point. And today it's because we have Senator Jon Ossoff here with us this morning. We spent some time talking and touring our water treatment plant, but to have our senator, who has been so supportive of our water infrastructure needs, our East Point path, and other needs within our city, and not just supportive in words, but also in funding, directing funding to our city. We are absolutely honored to have him join us this morning, spend time with us, tour our treatment plant with us, and then really to make this special announcement about his continued commitment and consistent commitment to the great city of East Point and its residents, and also those who come through and visit, and the other cities that we absolutely have the honor to serve as a water provider. So I will turn it over to none other than our Senator Jon Ossoff.
Well, good morning all. It's a pleasure to be here in East Point. As always, a pleasure to be back in East Point. I want to thank Mayor Holliday Ingram, Mayor Pro Tem Shropshire, members of the council who are with us. I want to express my particular gratitude to Melissa Echeverria, who has been dutifully managing the water infrastructure here in East Point and providing my team with essential updates this morning. I also want to thank the East Point Police Department officers who are taking care of us here and keeping the community safe every day. Let's just give a round of applause for our first responders. We're also joined by fire and homeland security leadership. Just grateful every day for the first responders who keep us safe and keep families and businesses in East Point safe. I'm here to make a major legislative announcement. I've just introduced a bill called the East Point Water Infrastructure Enhancement Act to empower and authorize the United States Army Corps of Engineers to undertake larger and more ambitious water infrastructure projects in partnership with the city of East Point. Now, why have I introduced this legislation? Because water infrastructure is essential for life. Water infrastructure is in dire need of upgrades, improvements, and enhancements across the state of Georgia. And I have the people of East Point on my mind every single day. So again, to be clear for members of the press about the news today, I've just introduced the East Point Water Infrastructure Enhancement Act. This is legislation to authorize the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to undertake ambitious water infrastructure improvement projects in partnership with the city of East Point to ensure that everybody in East Point and everybody in the state of Georgia has reliable access to safe, clean, healthy drinking water. We've seen from the recent experience in the city of Atlanta what an urgent requirement it is to dutifully invest in our water infrastructure. Clean, safe, healthy drinking water is not a luxury, it's a necessity. And for children, for families with small children, for seniors, for businesses in the community, an interruption of safe drinking water supply is an emergency. That's why we're partnering with the city and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to introduce this legislation. And my objective is to pass this legislation this year as part of the broader Water Resources Development Act that Congress will be considering on the floor of the U.S. Senate later this year. I am happy to take questions from members of the press on this or any subject, and if it's something technical about water infrastructure in East Point, then I'll hand things off either to the mayor or to Ms. Echeverria for their expertise, and Daniela will call on members of the press, please.
Senator, you referenced Atlanta just now, and we know from what just happened, you saw a 100-year-old infrastructure. What about East Point specifically do you see that it needs immediate attention versus other areas?
Well, this legislation focused on East Point is part of a series of bills that I'm introducing as we speak in order to deepen and expand the partnership between the United States Army Corps of Engineers and localities across Georgia to plan and implement long overdue improvements to water resources infrastructure. I'm introducing similar bills for a range of communities across the state that have urgent needs, just as a couple of years ago I introduced and passed the City of Atlanta Stormwater Management Act. We saw during the recent crisis in Atlanta how important it was to get the Army Corps on the ground swiftly and for the Army Corps to be deeply engaged in the process of planning and implementing the necessary improvements over the next few years. I want to empower the City of East Point to be ahead of the curve, to have that close working relationship with the Army Corps of Engineers. That's why I've introduced this legislation.
I was wondering, what are some of the priorities for the water infrastructure in East Point? What are some of the changes that you're looking at?
Well, I want to empower the local government here to make those decisions on behalf of East Point residents and to have the full support and backing of the federal government in doing so. So I will turn things over either to the mayor or to Melissa to give an update on key water infrastructure priorities for East Point.
Good afternoon. So the priorities right now is for drinking water compliance. That is for renovations at the water treatment plant for us to be able to handle any impeding regulations for drinking water. Of course, water main replacement and also enhancements for our sewer system to protect our creeks and waterways for our residents. My name is Melissa Echevarria, and I'm the Water Resources Director for the City of East Point. ECHEVARRRIA.
When you saw what happened in Atlanta, did it increase your own urgency to want to do something?
Yes, so the good thing is many years ago, we have mapped out our system. Our system is not as old as the City of Atlanta. And of course, there were numerous factors contributing to that issue with the water outage. So we are jumping ahead of that. We have prioritized our most oldest lines to be rehabilitated and repaired. And of course, we are seeking federal funding for that, as well as grant opportunities to be able to get ahead of that so it doesn't happen again. So internally, we provide water to the City of East Point residents, which is 35,000, but we also supply water to the City of College Park and Hateville. So a total of 70,000 residents we supply water to.
I do have another question for this one, the Senator, and then I know we're all ready to how much money, Senator, how much money is still for the infrastructure improvements?
This legislation, the East Point Water Infrastructure Enhancement Act, will set the annual authorization for the Army Corps of Engineers to undertake projects in support of the city at $20 million.
Any other questions?
Everyone's hot. Thank you all so much for coming. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks. Chief, thank you.